7th Vendée Mag, trials and tribulations abound as the race reaches the halfway point. Maxime Sorel, convalescing following his retirement, is this week's expert. And we meet up with Guillaume Verdier, the architect behind many of the leading boats. Charlie Dallan continued to set the pace as the Vendée Globe entered its 6th week. Sailing off the Australian coast, he'd opened up gaps of 160 and 300 miles over his two closest rivals as he prepared to cross from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific. Johan Rischon was the faster of the two.
Q Cape Lewin, 3rd. That's not bad.
The Paprec Arkea skipper had stepped up the pace to leave 4th place Thomas Rouillon trailing and was battling to make up the ground on Sébastien Simon, lying 2nd. The three leaders had their eye on a windless area that threatened to impede sailors who failed to get through on time. Yet another breakaway for the frontrunners was on the horizon, down under. Far behind in the Indian Ocean, the race was getting tough.
We've been sailing for a month now, and we're in the Southern Ocean. There are lots of storms here. It seems like a new one brings up every day. Tonight, the wind will increase again to over 40 knots. Just set the storm jib. It's tiring, all this pressure. Don't worry, we're used to coping with storms. Look! It feels more like an adventure than a race, with the environment being so hostile. You don't feel very welcome. You sense the need to tread carefully as if not to disturb the sea, the waves, or the wind. I pulled off a length of track. It's even pulled out the inserts. I don't know how I'm going to fix that. No idea.
The racers at the rear of the Vendée Globe fleet chose different options to cross the Indian Ocean. While the more seasoned sailors sought a safe route to the north to avoid strong gales, a group of rookies chose a more direct course, made more hazardous by a series of lows. All the skippers were left reeling from the severe weather they had faced. Adrenaline, mast climbing, damage, it was a fight for survival.
It had felt far too easy for me since the start. Well, that's not like me. It's all changed now. And the adventure begins when trouble starts. And I've had my fair share. The boat broached and it was impossible to bear away. 45 minutes like that. I thought I was going to dismast. I couldn't do a thing. Then I decided to reroute to the Kerguelen Islands. I climbed the mast in 30-35 knots of wind. The boat then broached with seaweed around her rudders. She was uncontrollable, and I was up the mast. I spent an hour up there, and then came down rapidly. I was 20, maybe 25 minutes from running aground. I decided to set off again. Last night I wanted to hoist my mainsail again, but I couldn't drop it. I had to climb back up the mast and spent 4 or 5 hours up there. I wasn't too happy with all my problems, but I'm pleased I've got most of them sorted now, and I'm sailing by the Kerguelen Islands. Oh, believe me, it's another world here. Hey, we've visitors. Ah, that's nice.
To the north of this group, Jean Le Cam, 18th overall, led the group of daggerboard boats and older foilers. The veteran's route showed impressive mastery of the art of anticipation and his unrivaled knowledge of the Indian Ocean and its many pitfalls. By veering north after rounding the Cape of Good Hope, Le Cam increased the distance to Australia, but clearly made the right choice in avoiding the unruly seas that greeted his southern counterparts. Short cross seas that give boat and skipper a hard time. 65-year-old Le Cam knows what he's about.
Wow.
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 That's wonderful. You just don't know how good it is. You know, it's like banging your head against a brick wall. Feels great when you stop. It's a bit like that.
Although the sea state and wind were calmer here, the skippers were nonetheless confronted by mechanical issues. Benjamin Ferret suffered damage to his keel ram that he repaired with perseverance and advice from his mentor and rival Jean Le Cam.
I've managed to fix it. Yes.
Meanwhile, Violette d'Orange stripped down her coffee grinder. Damien Seguin was in a new low-pressure system that was driving the fleet towards Australia and had a major scare while skirting the Antarctic exclusion zone.
I've not had a good time of it over the last few hours. I ripped a U-bolt off the deck. That left a hole and water was getting into the sail locker. I had to seal it from the outside. It wasn't easy. With 40 knots of wind, even stronger gusts, and a particularly rough sea out there, I hurt myself in the process. And that's why I have a neck brace. I sprained my knee too. It's not a good day. I'm not going very fast in terms of boat speed, but at least I'm heading the right way. It's not too bad. There. The new guy is in place with the join and the forward tackle. That's for tensioning. Great.
We are flying! And now you can't stop me. Look at that! No, actually not. I know I've got to slow down. I know. Just let me at it for 1 more hour. Just 1 more, please.
Well, after a dreadful night, I can wipe out Cape of Good Hope. Done. Cape. Oh, it's not easy to write. Not easy to spell either. Lewin. There. I'm so happy. It brings tears to my eyes. Wow.
Whilst Roman Atanasio was 4 days in arrears on passing the southwest tip of Australia in 15th place, Sébastien Simon, near the front of the fleet, was just 11 hours down on Charlie Dallin. From Johan Richomme to Nicholas Lundven, the gap was slightly over 1 day, and the chasing group over 2 days behind the leader. The front runners weren't letting up their pace. A compact fleet and the permanent gauge provided by the other boats spurred on the racers. Despite the fatigue and the months spent at sea, despite the huge gaps, no one gave up the fight.
I get the impression everyone's sailing flat out in the Southern Ocean. There's plenty of pace, that's for sure.
As well as battling with their rivals, the skippers were racing against the weather systems passing over them, driving them on or halting their progress, depending on the boat's speed and their ability to stay ahead of the lows and avoid being sucked into the lulls.
It's the worst case scenario for me at the moment. I thought I'd passed the ridge easily enough. But the boats behind had no choice but to sail around. I'm stuck in it, and of course the leaders will get away. It's frustrating. The top three are far away. They're in a different weather system and not facing this area of low wind. Sadly, seems like we won't see them again for quite a while. But the race isn't over. Plenty can still happen.
The Australian high dealt the skippers a new hand and played with their nerves. A traffic jam formed south of Tasmania at the gateway to the Pacific Ocean. A group of 10 waited to be whisked away by the next low pressure system in hot pursuit of the leading trio, who'd also bunched up in a different weather system. For the first time since the doldrums over 3 weeks ago, Boris Herman re-entered the top 10 south of Australia, renewing contact with Paul Meyer, Yannick Bestaven and Sam Goodchild in the chasing pack. The big low waiting for them seemed like a new start. Finding the balance in terms of commitment and intensity promised to be decisive, but it offered a chance to close the gap. Meanwhile, Johan Richomme piled the pressure on Sébastien Simon, who without a foil on port tack was helpless as Paprec Arcaire sailed by.
Johan downwind is overtaking me. Without my foil, I can't do much. I think I've done my best so far, but... It's not over. Good luck, Yo-Yo.
Richomme's boat, at ease sailing downwind in heavy seas, came back hard on the heels of Charlie Dalin. Before venturing into the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, as they passed by one last island off New Zealand, their view of the surroundings revealed their frame of mind.
I'm passing between the South Island of New Zealand and the small island of Auckland. I zoomed in and I found this. There's actually a place called Disappointment Island with a Castaways Bay. Don't want to end up there. Oh, it's beautiful. So pleased I came this far anyway. Auckland Island. Superb. Great weather too. Oh, it's amazing. Lovely day. Really is pure bliss. It's like I came here just for this.
On Sunday, tragedy struck Pip Hare, who'd been sailing superbly in 15th place. Sadly, she dismasted off Australia.
It's not good news from Medallia today. Medallia just took off, landed, and when it landed the mast came down in 2 pieces. And so that's the end of our 2024 Vendée Globe race. But I do want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has worked so hard for the last 4 years to make this race happen.
Sailing with a jury rig, Hare should take around 10 days to reach Melbourne. To lift our spirits after this devastating news, let's celebrate Sébastien Marcet's birthday, 40 in the roaring 40s.
Happy birthday, Seb! Woohoo!
And a resurrection. Antoine Cornick managed to take shelter off Ile St Paul in the heart of the Indian Ocean, climb his mast and fix his mainsail traveller problem.
This won't be easy. It's going to be rough.
After 5 hours of repairs up the mast, a successful outcome thrilled Cornick.
I've got a track. I've done it. Look. I've got a track. So long, St. Paul. Look. I'm sorry, Pip. Right. I'm off again.
After maintaining the lead for 14 days and through the Indian Ocean, Charlie Dalin was overtaken by Johan Richomme, who hadn't held first place since rounding the Cape of Good Hope. By stepping up the pace, pushing himself harder and surfing on strategic weather choices, Richomme closed the gap with the leaders in 15 days, fully optimising his boat's performance in heavy seas.
I've made a good comeback, so I'm really pleased. We're here with Charlie. He wasn't that far off. He was 4 or 5 miles downwind of me earlier. I think the lead could change frequently, whether it's him, me, or Sebastian. Well, I'm leading this Vendée Globe, and we should stay in the lead until Cape Horn. After that, it might be harder. I don't know.
In the chasing pack, the front was hard going with high speeds and high winds. Jeremy Bayou, Nicholas Lundven and Thomas Ruyan were now together, frustrated at not being able to catch up before Cape Horn, and they too will have to skirt the edge of this ice zone, dodging wind holes, and pursued by Yannick Besthaven, Paul Meyer, Boris Herman and Justin Metro.
Ça bombarde, as the French say.
Clarisse Kremer and Sam Davis stalled at this stage, unable to catch the low pressure in time. They were very upset as the race slipped away.
I'm so annoyed. I fought for nothing, and now there's no wind. I have to go and hoist a sail, and I don't even know where I'm going anymore because I was holding on to this effing front. All is lost. I'm furious. It sucks.
Only 36 skippers remain after Xabi Juarez pulled out, unable to secure his rig before entering the Southern Ocean. The Hungarian ended his race in Cape Town, South Africa.
Cette semaine aura été marquée par les avaries dans tous les groupes.
This week, the Vendée Globe has been marked by damage throughout the fleet. As ever, crossing the Indian Ocean proved to be particularly extreme and brutal. Maxime Sorel is here today to talk about it. Hi, Maxime.
Hi.
Alors, vous avez été la première
You were the first casualty of the 10th Vendée Globe. First of all, how's your ankle?
Comment allez-vous, votre cheville?
Well, it's getting better. I left the boat a month ago, and a week ago I came off my crutches, and that's good. I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I've begun some physio, albeit gently. It'll still take a little longer, though. I hope to be walking normally for Christmas. That would be a lovely gift.
I believe your boat is now back in Concarneau, but you're continuing the Vendée Globe virtually with routings based on your boat's polars. What's the point?
Yes, the boat is in the shed now in Concarneau. We've started the winter refit, and I'm still doing the Vendée Globe. There'll certainly be a lot of unanswered questions, mainly because we're not going to be in the Southern Ocean. We also have a good idea about our friends competing. We know what type of foils they have and what their speed is compared to mine. I'm continuing to work with my polars to try and position myself to see what kind of speed I could have reached and the sorts of decisions I might have made. So it's working on the weather. But I also try to analyse the boat speeds in relation to the sea state they encounter to see if they're consistent with what we had with our polars.
So which group would you be in?
Well, today I ought to be roughly between Paul Meyer and Jeremy Bayou. We really ought to be battling it out with the friends we normally hang out with when we're racing.
Talk to us about the cruelty of having to retire. We've seen 2 this week. What's it like? How do you prepare for such a shock after 4 years of work?
We prepare a lot of things during these 4 years of work. One thing we rarely prepare for, of course, is retiring. We prepare for breakage and how to deal with it. We try to imagine all the possible scenarios for a boat sailing round the world. To have the equipment for repairs ready and the know-how to use it. When you dismast, though, like Pip did, there's really no solution. When there's major breakage and you either don't have the part or you can't put things right, then you must retire with a heavy heart.
Oof, it must be brutal.
It's pretty indescribable because, as you say, it's 4 years of preparation. You envisage the Vendée Globe and the difficulty. As you repair, you think of what you'll be able to do, but you never want to believe it's over. Well, that's true for me and probably for Louis Burton too. You try to find solutions to keep the boat going as long as possible within reason. That's when it's hard to decide to retire, when it might still be possible. In my case, I absolutely had to stop.
OK, well, back to the race and the pace. Are you surprised by the pace set by the skippers? Nobody really slowed down, either in the Indian or early on in the Pacific.
No, I'm not surprised. We were always neck and neck, the bit between our teeth, sailing flat out in the 3 seasons we did. At one point, a small group, notably Johan Richon, held back to try to escape a low system, while Sébastien and Charlie effectively managed to stay ahead of it. So, when you think about it, they sailed differently in this part of the race. But it's true that the speeds are quite impressive. It's great because the fleet is now at close quarters, so it may be like a whole new start for them.
Yeah, we have seen the gaps close. Do you view the race as still wide open, or is one of the leading trio bound to win now?
Frankly, it's a bit too early to call. I hope people haven't placed their bets yet. It really is. It's too early to say. An awful lot can happen, even on the way back up the Atlantic Ocean. Working out who's going to win the Vendée Globe is still very difficult. The gaps are minimal. We've seen gaps close too. And today, Charlie Dallain, who led by over 500 miles, is now second. So, anything is possible.
Thanks, Maxime. Now, to wrap up this Vendée Mag, we went to see Guillaume Verdier, the architect behind 6 of the top 10 boats leading this Vendée Globe, to learn more about the role of a naval architect.
We designed Charlie Dallain's boat, Massif Santé-Prévoyance. Sébastien Simon's boat, formerly 11th Hour, winner of the Ocean Race. And then Holcim PRB, on which Nicolas Lunven is racing. I was watching Charlie. It came up 1400 UTC. Johan isn't far off at all. I think they're only going to get closer, but Charlie's trying to head south to the edge of the ice. We're all mentally doing the virtual regatta, thinking, what would we do in their position? When we design a boat like Massif, it's not the first one we've worked on with them. The goal was quite specific. We had to build a boat which would be among the front runners at Cape Town. So good in all the transition phases and on reaches. So we had the old boat as a reference, and the deltas we drew up on some points of sail, and we also had the simulator. Every change we make is measured. At the start, Charlie was instantly happy when he went sailing. It's a joint endeavour between myself, the architect, and the clients. Charlie and I have known each other for a long time, and we get on well. We went to the same school and speak the same language. He's happy to work with us, and we're delighted to work with him. And there's also mutual trust. In fact, for a winning project, first you really do need to get on well. Charlie's latest boat is much nicer than the one we had before. He lives at the centre of buoyancy, the area of the boat, in terms of angle variations, that moves about the least. There's less movement in terms of trim. That's a bit better. We're currently focusing a lot on sailing this boat in swells. We're trying to improve overall design, providing better protection, reducing wetted surface, making foils that are more self-stable, so that when they stall, they pick up again quickly enough to prevent the boat heeling over violently. A more comfortable boat allows the skipper to focus energy on making progress rather than enduring discomfort. So a key aspect of our work on new models will be designing more comfortable boats. That's Sebastian's boat. You can see that these boats have plenty of internal structure, with longitudinal frames that are likely used by our competitors as well. Antoine Koch has built some fine boats, with Thomas Rouland's boat and then Johan Richon's. The front is quite flared, not unlike the 11th hour boat we built before. This pushes the water aside and makes it easier to pass through the waves. He also designed a boat that's slightly narrower at the waterline. These boats sail downwind through the swell relatively well. They're probably a bit trickier upwind and on reaches than the ones we designed. Sometimes one boat's advantages are counterbalanced by those of another. In any case, he's fighting up front. We watch them and pay close attention to what the others are up to.